Boom, boom, boom. Shake the room. Just to say that, welcome everybody, and really good to see everybody here. If you are here, in fact, I'm here, and I'm joined by, of course, the Italian expert who is hosting the game with me. And there we go.
Hello.
So, yeah, welcome. Is anybody
Yeah,
here? Nope, nobody here. Okay, no
yeah.
problem.
There you go.
Just to say, we will be joined in a little while by, of course, a lucky wolf, Wolfin, I should say, and he'll be here in a little while. He's busy at work at the moment, but should be coming back at some point. And when he does, I'm crossing fingers that he will join us. In the meantime, it's just me, and as I say, my fantastic host, the Italian expert, Fabio.
Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
Fabio. Welcome, welcome.
Hello. Hello.
Of course, this week it was the American Grand Prix,
Mm-hmm.
also known as the US Grand Prix, also
Mm-hmm.
known as USA F1, also known as COTA.
Kota.
Yes, do you know what COTA
Yes.
stands for?
Circuit of the Americas.
Oh, okay. I had a slightly different thing that ended in
Okay.
arseholes. But
Oh
okay,
yeah,
don't worry
yeah.
about that. Don't worry
Oh
about
yeah.
that. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
moving on. Uh, moving on, we're going to do the race review malarkey. And that means let's go. I guess we'll just get straight on with it then, shall we?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Right, here we go. It was a fantastic race. In pole position, of course, Carlos Sainz. In second place, Leclerc, who had a 15th-place grid penalty. Then in third place it was Verstappen. An amazing qualifying. Ferrari showing amazing pace. And Leclerc really strong all the way through, with Sainz putting in what I can only describe as the lap of his life. This in order to beat Leclerc to pole. It was very close, 10th of a second or so, and around this circuit, that's absolutely nothing. Bumpy circuit, as we know, COTA, and they had done some bits to try and sort that out. No one was complaining this year. Don't know why, because it still looked very bumpy to me. Second place on the grid, therefore, after penalties was Max Verstappen, and third place was Lewis Hamilton. Fourth place, Russell, and then various cars further back. And it looks like there was a good result for Stroll, actually, in fifth place, something like that. So really, really good result for Stroll. And I think he's earned his place in F1 next year through that. Either that or having a dad owning the team. I can't remember
Yeah.
which one earned him the place, but nonetheless, he's done very well. In fact, like we were saying some time ago when he first joined Williams, after a couple of years, he was getting his feet under the table and becoming quite a decent race driver. And he's proved that all the way through. He's consistent, a good midfield race driver. He's not going to set the world alight, even given a car, I feel. But nonetheless, yeah, he's a pretty decent race driver, as I can tell. At least up there with the likes of Perez, who else? Magnussen, a few others like that. So he's doing all right. He's doing all right by my books. Okay, so onward with the race, as I say, in first place. I would say that the odd numbers, first, third, fifth, etc., got away extremely poorly. Not uncommon at this circuit, and a good start for the even, which was Verstappen, Russell, and Norris. However, into the first corner, it was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And this is a controversial moment, I would say. It didn't seem controversial at the time, but Sainz challenging around the outside, or trying to challenge around the outside, realizing he couldn't make that, obviously, because he didn't get a fast enough start. Then cut back to the inside at the same time as Russell and Hamilton came through the first corner, and that basically meant that they were fighting each other hard, and that meant Russell actually went into the T-boned the side of Sainz, putting Sainz out of the race and robbing us really of any really much entertainment until right at the end of the race. Lewis Hamilton taking avoiding action, spotting everything going wrong, decided to drive off circuit and get through okay. One thing I will say, and the reason I think it's controversial, and I may probably disagree with Fabio, was that Carlos Sainz was trying to get position on Verstappen, through this corner instead of just following him through. He tried to get position by going into or jinking to the inside of the racetrack, and of course this cut off any space that Russell possibly would have had to avoid him. So the collision really, I don't think, was just Russell's fault. He was given a 5-second penalty, but I don't think it was all his fault. I think Sainz has a little bit to blame. Poor racecraft, and when we look at previous incidents at this corner at the beginning of races, I think there was always going to be something going wrong when you're moving your car that quickly across the racetrack. Anyway, moving on. A bit of a fiasco. A few other people suffered. Basically Stroll took advantage, Vettel took advantage, although Norris quickly recovering or trying to recover places as best he could, but nonetheless falling behind Vettel. This then put them, Norris put him on the back foot, and he was never going to recover through the race, as it turned out, which goes to show. Russell clearly at fault in the first corner, as I say, because he was the one doing the hitting, but I don't think Sainz made it any easier by trying to jink to the inside of Verstappen. I think that's just poor racecraft. And again, it's what we've come to expect from the mid-pack drivers like Sainz, like Perez, the second drivers. There you go. Verstappen, of course, got away to a clean one and zoomed off into the distance, leaving Paul Sainz to wheel his car back into the garage. And it could have been a really good race for Sainz had he not taken that move, I feel. Then Russell, trying to recover, comes back past Stroll easily enough. Of course, the Mercedes has the pace on the Aston Martin at the moment. Sergio Perez also, who was slightly slowed in that initial incident, trying to come back. Latifi spinning out, couldn't handle his rear end, couldn't handle the S's. A fantastic series of bends at Cota, of course. This giving Perez, of course, a chance to move up. And by lap 12, Leclerc, who'd started way back in 12th place, I believe, had started making moves up. Then to our first yellow flag, and yellow flags were going to be something of a theme during this race. Our first yellow flag called by Bottas, who again had rear end problems. I think maybe the bump's not helping. It seemed like if the car's unstable, then that of course leads to less downforce. That of course leads to rear end grip lossage. This allowed on lap 19 Leclerc to come in and try and undercut the field by putting the hards on. He came out, and this was generally going to work for the teams that tried it. So again, good of Ferrari. Then we get to lap 22 and we get to the Alonso Stroll incident. Alonso perfectly towing Stroll down the straight, and Stroll just jinking as soon as he saw any movement behind him. And of course, this then caused a collision between Alonso and Stroll. Looked really spectacular as Alonso flew in the air, really decimating his front wing, but the car actually surviving. Stroll completely out as it ripped off his right rear. I would put all the blame on Stroll here, and I'm quite surprised that he hasn't suffered any consequences. It seemed like everybody just kind of ignored it, and I don't know why. But nonetheless, a very dangerous incident. Okay, so Alonso then gets back to the pits. And Leclerc making a fantastic pass on Perez. I should just add that as well. And I don't know why I'm all like this today. Oh, it's my TV. Okay. Anyway, Perez making a great pass. Unfortunately, Sainz making a great pass. Unfortunately, he didn't keep his foot in when the yellow flag came out. This allowed Perez to get back ahead of him. Nonetheless, he overtook him in the pits, or Leclerc overtook Perez in the pits again, kept him behind for a few laps until he finally got by. They had a fantastic ding-dong through the S's, with Leclerc coming out on top. This is lap 39, of course. Verstappen pitting as well when this yellow flag came out and putting him back. Vettel leading the race for a brief period of time. And of course, then Verstappen using his tyres, using his car to come back through the grid until lap 41, where Lewis Hamilton also started coming back and overtook obviously Vettel. And again, a fantastic ding dong. This track does promote good racing, I will say that. And of course, an amazing drive back through from Alonso, who was put way down the grid with having to fix his car and put a new front wing on. Nonetheless, he really was on fire. Obviously, shook him up a little bit. Then lap 50, the Verstappen finally getting past Hamilton out in front. Hamilton tyres really wearing out. And, Verstappen obviously having a huge car advantage made it quite easy for him to overtake. And there we go. That was basically the race then for the next 6 laps. Verstappen was away. Hamilton in second place. Leclerc third. A great race. There were some particularly outstanding drivers. Vettel, Alonso having a fantastic race towards the end as well. Both of them driving really well, like world champions. Hamilton, a really good race. Obviously, coming second place is a great result for him. And Max Verstappen confirming Red Bull as the world champions in 2022, constructors champions, that is, and giving them the double this year. That's basically my race roundup. There were a few other things which hopefully we'll talk about. George getting through at the end and making some good passes. Not a bad race to watch, unfortunately. Pretty much by the book, and with that first corner incidents, it was all a little disappointing. So just to recap, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez, Russell, then Norris, good race to come back through. Alonso, Vettel, Magnussen under the radar, but still doing very well, went on a one-stop strategy, and Tsunoda. And that was the top 10. So thank you very much. Before you come in, I just want to welcome Lucky to the stream. Welcome, Lucky. Thank you for coming by. I really appreciate that.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, or evening, rather. Good afternoon, evening.
It just doesn't matter because we could be anywhere. It doesn't matter. Could be anywhere.
We're a global channel.
We are, because let's face it, we have global reach. Well, I say reach. That's a stretch, isn't it? Thank you very much.
I trust you're both well this evening.
Yes, very well. I've just done the race recap commentary. I'm just going to pass it over to Fabio at the moment, and then we'll get your section in if you wouldn't mind, Lucky. Okay. So
awesome. Yeah, I've been listening for the past sort of 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Nothing to hear here. Okay, go ahead, please, Fabio.
So a couple of things. First of all, the Norris made a good race. Vettel was fucking amazing. He made a pass in the last lap against Magnussen in a place where I'd never seen anybody overtaking that place. Like never. A small correction. The order you gave is right at the moment of when they arrived. Alonso was penalized, was given 30 seconds penalty. So basically,
really?
Yeah. He dropped from
what?
P7 to P15 because I think it was. I think he lost something. There was something wrong with his car.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, he dropped from P7 to P15. So the final thing is Vettel P7, Magnussen P8, Tsunoda P9, and Ocon P10. So that is a small correction.
Yes, thank you. It is a small correction.
Yeah,
because you're talking about minor points, obviously. I just want to say one thing. Yeah, I wanted to say one thing, which is a talking point, which I hope we'll all get to anyway. Which was, of course, at the end, when it was Verstappen versus Hamilton, they of course were calling each other out for exceeding track limits, which I thought was hilarious. And then as a result, I thought this was even more hilarious. So once that didn't work, right, and Verstappen got away
Yeah.
from Hamilton in those last few laps, Mercedes pulled Russell in to try and get the fastest lap, which I thought was brilliant strategy, right? Knowing
Mm-hmm.
that if he did that, right, then Verstappen would almost certainly try to go for a fastest lap again. So I just thought that was really great strategy by Mercedes. Anyway, carry on. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
No, I mean there was some other issues. Seems to be a lot of teams had problems at the pit stop, especially from with the front left tire. I don't know if it was something which had to do with the circuit, but both Red Bull and Aston Martin had the same problem. Uh, you already mentioned the big accident with Alonso and Stroll. I saw the accident over and over again because at the beginning I thought was it was I still think it's Stroll's fault. Apparently, what has happened is that they checked data and basically they all moved at the same time. At least that's what Alonso said. And when you wonder, why, nothing was, came out of the accident, I
Mm.
think that the main reason was that Alonso didn't protest. And I recognize that Alonso has several million reasons not to protest. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There is that. There is that. I never seen Alonso in the post-race interview giving an interview about being taken out of the race in such a way, being so cool about it. He said, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we move at the same time. Yeah, these things
Moved at the
happen.
same time. Like,
Yeah, yeah."
really, really.
Anyway, I mean, listen. If
But
he's fine with
mm,
that,
yeah,
almost being killed, I mean, fuck
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think the main reason that he got away with it, or Alonso didn't suffer any worse than he did, is because let's face it, the Lance's dad owns the team that he's going to. Is that's the implication you're giving, right?
Well, no, I'm just saying that Alonso has several millions reasons not to protest
Yeah.
Lance Stroll.
I mean,
Like
a funny
man.
and a funny thing happened also later on, which was Lewis defending from Verstappen early on, and again, brilliant racing by Lewis. I've got to say, I thought he drove particularly well,
Yeah, yeah,
and basically he moved before braking, just before braking. He
yeah,
moved to the inside and then
yeah,
nailed the brakes. Okay,
yeah.
and Verstappen was not happy. Okay, and went, "Oh, he's moving in the braking zone." Clearly not. Okay, clearly he didn't move in the
Well,
braking zone.
it's. I mean, we saw some really good overtake in Austin yesterday. Again, the one that Vettel put up on Magnussen the last lap was, I think
Yeah.
it should be taught by everybody. You want to race, they should show him, what those two guys did,
Mm.
really hard, really, but yeah, really ballsy.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Went
was
round he
quite,
went round the outside of a corner,
yeah.
and then into that led into the next corner where he had the inside. So it was an easy overtake in the end.
It
Yeah.
yeah, but he overtook on the outside. So I don't know. I mean, it was really ballsy. Again, I can't remember seeing anybody overtaking that point, and by
Mm.
anybody,
Yeah.
I'm thinking also Porsche Cup or whatever. I've never seen anybody racing in that circuit overtaking
Mm.
that point. So
Yeah.
kudos
Yeah. Yeah.
to Sebastian. Um, uh, so there were a lot of overtakes. I'm going to mention the one that Verstappen did on Leclerc.
Mm.
Even if the superiority of the Red Bull, especially with the DRS Open, was fucking uncanny. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Leclerc said, yeah, when Verstappen, is on me on the straight, I can only wave him bye bye, because there's nothing
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can do. Uh,
I mean,
one overtake, which was,
just to say, it was 11 kilometers in testing in during the pre-practice. 11 kilometers an hour faster than Hamilton, and something like 8 kilometers an hour faster than Leclerc, and that wasn't on full fuel loads either. So
the overtake which really got me, besides again, the Vettel Magnussen one, was actually the one that Leclerc did on Perez, because Leclerc did the same thing that Verstappen did on him, but the cars were reversed. So Perez should have had the advantage, and Leclerc just jumped in the inside in a way. I mean, when you talk about people, yeah, is committed to overtake, you should look at that overtake.
Yeah.
It was totally committed. He missed he just stayed in the track for I think a quarter of the tire. And Perez, of course, was complaining, about, he's off. No, he isn't. Fuck off. Just race.
he pushed me off the track. He pushed me off.
Yeah. Fuck off. So yeah, that was a fantastic overtake.
It was because
yeah.
he managed to get right fully alongside even before the apex. If he hadn't of, there may have been some problems. But no, he was committed, and he literally made Perez look like
an idiot.
He had the weakest left leg ever.
Yeah,
it's just
like
so
like an idiot.
Again, very impressive. And Sainz also managed to do a good overtake on him. Unfortunately, the timing of the yellow flag, of course, came.
Yeah, but anyway, so that was the race. Nice race. Again, some interesting things. Red Bull is, as I would say, is a vastly superior car right now. I mean, of course, nobody's bringing new modifications because the season is over. There is a few things to fight over, like a position in the championship, which is money, but it's not that
disappointing with Sainz as a result.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that it was a killer blow for Ferrari because they're in a close battle, aren't they? So
it was unfortunate. The other thing which was unfortunate was that it happened at the start. Usually, so this is a general rule in F1, but it has always been like that. Accidents which happen at the start are considered less serious than during the race, because all the cars are the same spot. And you're right that Sainz tried to to cut the track, even if that is a very tricky corner. I mean, there's basically two kind of trajectories you can take, so it's not a given that if you stay outside you keep outside and stuff like that. It's more or less the same, and you don't lose too much time on either trajectory. So I agree with you when you said that he kind of cut it. He was obviously trying to get back at Verstappen. Regardless, I mean, I think that Lewis Hamilton said, better when they ended the race, and Leclerc asked Lewis, what happened to Sainz? What happened to Carlos? And there was the camera there, so Lewis could not answer. He just paused for a second and said, well, George just took him out. Which was, it was.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
I think that Carlos was also particularly unlucky because, I mean, the bump wasn't that massive. It was unlucky because Russell managed to hit Ferrari in a place. There was a very small hole, just on the side spot where the Ray-Ban sponsor is. And it was a very small hole, but this apparently is where a lot of hydraulics are in. So that put him out of the race, because he had no hydraulics. So, it was also
I'd just say, I put it, this mistake for Carlos Sainz, it's similar to going into the first corner and braking 10 meters too early. You know what I mean? It's just other people are not going to be expecting that kind of move at that position.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying it doesn't make it your fault because somebody hit you from behind.
Right.
It's their fault. But, in the etiquette of racing, that isn't the kind of thing you do in the first corner. And that's why I'm just saying, look, this is poor
Well,
racecraft by
Science.
Sainz, as well as Russell being too eager to try and get past
Yeah, I
Lewis.
mean, no, I agree with you. I would say that it wasn't Carlos' fault. The only problem with Carlos is that he put himself in a position where he should not have been.
Yeah, that's it.
Again,
Exactly.
it's not an excuse at all for Russell, which also, by the way, he got in the corner already with a front lock, so he couldn't steer the car as he wanted. So
Yeah.
you compound there was a mistake from Russell, and it was compounded, and and Carlos just was in a position where he normally would not should not have been, but I mean
Yeah, there you
those
go.
are the races.
I'm not sure it was such a big mistake by Russell. I think he was deliberately going in there hot and heavy to force Lewis on the outside. Just didn't expect Carlos to be there. That was the thing.
Well, I'm just saying that the moment that you lock the front tires, you have no directionality anyway. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, regardless of what George Russell wanted to do, and I agree with you that that was probably his plan. The moment that you lock the tires, you have no directionality. So it doesn't matter what you want to do. The only thing you could do is just go forward,
Yeah.
So in a way, maybe I wouldn't say that it was lucky that he hit Carlos, because he might have hit Lewis.
Lewis.
So
yeah, I think Lewis had already taken avoiding action because he saw, Russell going in too hot anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that was Russell's plan. So there you go. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying everything would have been real cool if Carlos had just gone, okay, I've lost first place. I didn't get the reaction time I needed.
Yeah, well,
and I've got to say, this is more down to Kota as well. It's not the first time this has happened at Kota. Right?
It's a very tricky first corner.
Second place gets off the grid much better here than at most tracks because of the grip. And of course, it has a huge advantage, like on all those years ago at Suzuka. Anyway,
it's a tricky first corner, also because it's uphill, so the braking point is kind of different. So one more thing before you pass the ball, you mentioned Latifi, and you remember, I mean, we spoke about Latifi last time. The fact that by his own admission, he didn't fully recover from last year. So
yeah.
What I want to say about Latifi is a driver which has made the same amount of points in the season that De Vries made in one race. I just leave it there.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm not going to comment. I could comment, but I am not going to comment.
No.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like now to pass it over to Lucky. Okay, how did you find the race? Anything that we missed, or anything you think we're completely wrong about, or just any comments in general about anything that you saw?
Well, I'm torn here at the moment. Yeah, okay, we're gonna have to go for this. Tell me, boys, who was the slowest in qualifying this weekend?
Was it Schumacher?
No, don't think so.
No, it wasn't Schumacher. Okay, was it Latifi?
It could well have been Latifi, indeed.
Okay.
Who was also last in the race? Who was out first?
Was it Carlos Sainz?
Apart from Carlos Sainz?
Yeah. Was it Latifi?
Good
That was well played, Simon. Well played. Yeah. He did not expect that. Yeah.
Poor Latifi. Poor Latifi.
Poor Latifi, yeah. And he's been doing okay. But I would compare him to Stroll here. Because Latifi came in, yes, with a good sponsor and a lot of money, just like Stroll did, okay? And they came into Williams. But Stroll actually has made something of himself. He's gone from being an amateur racer like Latifi, I feel, although Latifi's got better results at lower end, and he's become a really solid racer. Latifi's never made that step up, even though they've both been through Williams. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Stroll made the step up once he jumped on a more competitive car, first of all, and also when his dad bought him rider that could actually teach him a couple of things or two.
I think that's
So
yeah. I think
I'm
that
not sure. I disagree there because he did actually like really improve. That's the word I'm looking for. He really did improve the last season with Williams. I mean, they spent a lot of money. Remember, for the season before he even joined F1, Lance, his dad paid 80 million to get him a test program with
I,
Williams.
yeah, I mean, the thing
That's
I
more
don't
than the
know.
sponsors, you know.
Well, the thing I don't know, and I would love to know, is that how many new parts Williams said when Stroll was owning parts of the company, and how many new parts Williams has now.
Yeah, that's true.
So there is
That
that
is
too.
true.
I mean, I don't know, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think.
Anyway, Latifi, you are quite correct. Hasn't
well,
been putting in the performances, and of
he's
course he'd be disappearing next year.
yeah, he's off to IndyCars next year, so I mean, he's not going to be out of a drive. He's still going to have something to do at weekends. Uh, Russell kind of spoiled things for us, didn't he? At turn one, taking out poor
Yeah,
Carlos Sainz.
big time. Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it was. It might have been a good race. I mean, if one of the Ferraris had managed to, or both, sorry, rather, the Ferraris had managed to get to the end of the first lap, we might have seen one of them cover the rest of the field while the other one disappeared into the distance, and that's what I was kind of hoping for the race. But well, all good things don't happen. Vettel, what's happened to Vettel? He's retiring, and his driving seems to have just come alive since he's said he's retiring. It's
Yeah, yeah.
isn't it?
Well, I think that there was a certain what's the word I'm looking for? Pressure on Vettel to like behave himself in order to get the drive because he was getting paid so much money, of course.
Yeah, Vettel seems
I
to be one
think
of
now he
these.
just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
This,
yeah.
Yeah, I think he seems to be one of these drivers who has to be enjoying themselves and having fun before you can get the best from him. And as soon as things start to go a bit wrong and his head's down, things just don't work quite so well. But it's a shame we're going to be seeing Vettel leaving. I still think that he should still be on an F1 grid.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you up to a point. I still think that Sebastian has the proper headset of a fucking world champion because we could say the same thing about Ricciardo this year. I mean, he's in a position where he doesn't give two fucks about it. What the hell? He actually is in a way better position than Sebastian if you think about it because he's gonna get at least 30 millions next year, regardless of whatever the fuck he does. So, but he still, is not delivering. So, I think I understand your point. I think you're right. I think Sebastian is in a good state of mind right now.
Yeah.
The problem is that, well, the thing is that his mind is so good when it comes to racing cars that is uncanny. So.
well, you made a point a few years ago about Vettel, which is, he won his championships when he had a car which had an amazing rear end, which had a lot of rear grip.
Yeah.
And that isn't the way the cars have been going over the last few years. So for him to come back now, I think really put that extra effort in and really drive the car, fantastically to be able to have that close race with Alonso in this one, and to be really confident in how the car was and the other drivers. Again, just shows the class. He is a class act.
And
Something
it's also
I didn't realize at the time he was at Red Bull. But anyway. Yeah.
And it's also not by chance that he performed really well in Kota, because Austin is a track that is rear limited, so it really works on the back end of the car, especially a lot of cars had problems with the. It's not so much as a tire consumption, but a lot of cars had problems because they had a thermic shock. So it wasn't that was no tire. It was the tire the temperature of the tires went too high. That is actually what
Right.
happened to Leclerc when Verstappen overtook him. He managed to stay with him for some laps. The problem was that his rear tire temperatures, just shot, and he had a massive cliff at a certain point, and he had to let him go. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And the state of Hamilton's tyres at the end of the race as well. I don't know if you saw them, but they were shagged. I mean, again, just showing what a great race Lewis had. Being able to
yeah,
at
but
least keep the times going, even though the tyres were shagged.
that is an issue that I think all the cars have, but Red Bull. The thing is that most of the cars, and that includes Ferrari, and I think that this is one of the problems that Ferrari had in the season. They look for efficient cars without looking for downforce. Uh, I would submit that even if it might sound strange, I think that Red Bull looked way more to downforce than all the other cars. And
Yeah.
because I mean, when you have a lot of downforce of the car, your tires are less stressed, and the way that the tires are less used on the Red Bull, I think that they really look for downforce. Maybe setup has a little bit to do, but I don't think too much. The suspension this year, they're way more primitive than
Yeah.
what was last year, stuff like that. So maybe there is a little bit of setup, but I think that the car at the beginning was already efficient, the Red Bull car, especially with the DRS open. But the car was already efficient, and they kinda only looked for downforce overall to look for a better balance of the car. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the chassis characteristic was more neutral and a lot more forgiving than the other ones. Whereas the Mercedes and the Ferrari really tried to work their tires a lot harder, thinking
Well,
that of course
yeah.
that would be the way to go to get tires in the window and keep them there.
I mean, I don't know about Ferrari. I think Ferrari, they just look for the wrong performances, but it's not here or there. But it's surely true for Mercedes, and you could actually look at the car from the get-go. What they were looking for was an high-efficient car, low drag,
Mm.
and they had to keep going that direction, which
Yeah.
didn't pay off, and it doesn't pay off because they can't get as much downforce as the other cars, and that's
Yeah.
why Lewis doesn't manage to use the tires as much as Russell because of the way that Lewis drives, not
Yeah.
because of the car.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just forget as well at the beginning of the season, people were questioning whether the new suspension setup on the Red Bull was going to work, and I think by the end of the season, I think they've shown that it was a huge success. So
Well, yeah. I mean, there is also the big elephant in the room, about the budget cap that we don't really know. Yeah, it's there. There is-
yeah. Okay, I
No
see.
budget cap, no.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so
yeah. Should we talk about that? Lucky.
Okay,
Your opinion?
Before we go to that,
Oh, okay.
Alonso Stroll, that could have been quite nasty, couldn't it? And as
well, it
Fabio
was
said,
nasty. I mean,
Alonso must have been in Valium or something. I've never seen him so chilled out after such an accident. I mean, look at the reaction he had when he collided with, or Hamilton collided with him at Spa. But this time he was like, oh, right,
Yeah, almost fucking flew to the moon, but that's okay.
it's almost as if you have millions of reasons not to complain.
Oh, millions, an endless list by the sound of things. But Hamilton was the only person that put up any sort of fight against Verstappen, wasn't he? And I mean, it wasn't that much of a fight, to be honest. Verstappen got the win. As you said, the crafty get him out for a fastest lap for Russell. strategy certainly paid off. But Red Bull, they've got both championships this year. But as we were just a week to say, the budget cap. I mean, it's getting a bit farcical. This. I don't know if you guys know about the Zach Brown letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just explain it for us.
Well, basically, Zach Brown from McLaren wrote to the FIA and also copied in to this letter all the teams apart from Red Bull, and basically accused Red Bull of cheating. Now,
not so many words. Let's just say that.
Well, apparently there's
heavily implied, shall we say?
Yeah. According to Christian Horner, that's basically what he understands the letter to say, that Red Bull were cheating. It's being, or Christian Horner is saying that it's being interpreted by people in general as an accusation of cheating, to the point that some Red Bull employees' children have been bullied at school over this allegation of cheating, and that's the hand to God. That's the truth. So,
yeah,
I believe there's some footage of a press conference where the two of them are sitting next to each other, and things get a bit heated.
Oh no, they don't get heated. They don't get heated.
Oh,
they get extremely passive aggressive, but they don't get heated.
Right. Okay. I mean, I'm looking at the headlines on Google, and some of them are saying heated. Some of them are saying tense. So
yeah, tense. Yeah, definitely tense. Passive aggressively tense.
I'll have to check out. I haven't seen it.
No, it was a fantastic interview. Lucky, it really was great.
Okay.
Red Bull pulling out all of the, oh yeah, but he didn't treat me very well. Oh, but look, he said this, he said that. None of which was actually true, because they then switched straight to Zach Brown, who basically turned around and said, look, all I said was, if somebody breaks the rules, right, that's cheating. Okay? I didn't say if anybody did break the rules. I just said if somebody has broken the rules. The FIA has said Red Bull has overspent.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, are you breaking up for me only, Lucky, or?
No,
I'm
just good here.
Okay, cool. Oh, okay.
Okay. Am I still okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so Zach Brown basically just said, I didn't say what you're accusing me of. It's like anything, any rule break. If somebody breaks the rules, I call that cheating, and they should be penalised. It's exactly the same as if somebody broke the right height rules or the flexi wing rules, both of which Red Bull have been accused and in one case found guilty of. So he only gave examples of Red Bull cheating. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Zach Brown is my new favourite manager, by the way.
I'm kind of mixed about this. This isn't good for the sport. It can't be good for the sport.
No, of course not.
However, I'm very sympathetic to Zach Brown's point of view. And you're correct. His letter didn't mention Red Bull by name at all. It didn't mention them in any way, shape, or form. It just said that if this happened, it's cheating. But I'm very sympathetic to Zach Brown. The rules are there. If you break the rules, you need to be penalised for it. And a retroactive penalisation that they're going to receive is going to have absolutely no outcome on the season they cheated in. So what's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point?
Yeah.
I just can't understand this. I mean, they're not going to take Verstappen's title away. They're not going to take Red Bull's constructors' title away. So, you basically cheated? They basically cheated for a year. You've got away with it, scot-free.
Yeah. So, Fabio and I had an interesting conversation about this. Fabio, do you want to just go through what you told me as a
Yeah.
possibility?
Well, I mean, and apparently what we said was actually what's going to happen in a way, because one of the things we talked about was the fact that okay, you got out. So let me recap for a second. The the mechanism by which you can control budget cap is super complicated. Okay, it is also by its own nature is not something that you can figure out immediately, because you can only figure out once the balance sheet has been made public by the companies, which happens in March. So this kind of thing is going to happen every time. You
Yeah.
can't have the end of the season and then make a decision just because all the papers are not there. So this is the first thing. it is super complicated. It is also super complicated to find the $200,000 dollars, or the $500,000. The problem with Red Bull is that they went way ahead of that. So what we talked about me and Simons, and I proposed, listen, okay, they should do something really simple. You got out of, I don't know, $1 million. Okay, next year you have $4 million less in the budget cap. So basically, you take however you got it, you multiply by 4 or 5, and you take away from the budget cap. Apparently, this is not what is being proposed by the FIA, which, by the way, it seems to be that they already gave FIA already gave their proposal to Red Bull. They decided not to make it public this weekend because of Macevic's died, so they decided to postpone it for a few days. But what they're talking about is a fine which should be in the ballpark of $20 million, as far as I knew. The only thing is that those $20 million are not taken away from the budget cap. That is the difference that in which we talked about. But there's also going to be something major. They're talking about taking away 500 hours in the wind tunnel. And that is going to be massive. Keep in mind that there is already some rules that says that whoever wins the championship get less hours, in development for the wind tunnel and simulation. But we're talking about 500 hours less, which is approximately something like 25% less hours in the wind tunnel. That is going to be substantial. That is going to hit. The other thing I want to say, and then I'll shut up, is that we got to be super careful here, because Newey has been designing cars, successful cars, in the last 10 years. Okay, he did it before Williams, he did it with the McLaren, with Red Bull. So it would be, in my opinion, a mistake to point out the superiority of Red Bull only because they were able to spend like a couple of millions more than the other teams. That I think would be unfair. On the other end, I totally understand the other teams. I would probably do the same if I were in their shoes, because even if it's true that it's really hard to again, as I said, to point the superiority of Red Bull to just a couple of millions more than the other ones. On the other end, if I am a competitor, I would point out the fact that regardless they did that. So that should be punished.
Okay. I got a few things to say. Lucky, what do you want to say to that?
My problem is that they've cheated. They've basically cheated for the year 2021. Okay, it's now 2022, and nothing's happened. And when will something actually happen? And what is actually going to be the effect of what happens. When will it actually come into effect of what's happening on the racetrack?
This is
If
a
it's
good point.
if it's a budget cap or less wind tunnel time, a budget cap reduction and less wind tunnel time, then it's going to be next year before something
Yes.
that happened in 2021 is addressed in the punishment stage, and that just doesn't seem right. It seems to be dragging the whole thing out over a period of years when it's something that should just be taken care of and be over and done with. But the problem is it all comes because it's all so complicated. You've got March the following year before you get the
books
budget handed to the FIA. They've yet to then assess it, and then there seems to be a load of mucking about what's going to be penalties. So it just seems to be dragging on an awful lot, and there must be a better way to do this.
No, I mean, I understand your point, but there is no way around it. There is totally no way around it for two reasons. So the first one is the FIA will never, ever touch a championship or the final result of a championship. They will never do that.
Right.
So that is out of the window, totally. Because if that were true, Braun GP would have never, won the championship. I mean, the various examples, they will never do that. So that is out of the window. It's not even a point of contention.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that, as I said before, this is an issue which is super complicated. It's not like, you put up a wing and you measure the wing. It doesn't fit with the criteria. You point it out. You don't use it in the race. That's it. No, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It is something that by design, and I mean, there is really nothing you can make out of it. You take any company, you can't tell how good is making a company during the fiscal year.
Yeah.
You will only know how good a company has done by the end of March of the next year. That is just what happened. So there is no way around it.
Yeah.
Well,
let me dive in there. There's a few things. So firstly, Red Bull are denying that they've even broken the cost cap rules as of the moment. Of course, this means that without them signing the agreement that they have broken the rules, which is what the FIA have put to them so far, I said, look, if you sign this document, we'll give you a reduced penalty. And they're still denying it. Why? Because because of course, they're going to get penalised. They never were going to get penalised points on the championship. They're not going to take away Max Verstappen's first world championship, and that's all they care about. The rest, the fine, that's nothing. So the only thing that really they're talking about is points on the championship, which they're never going to do, or test time in the tunnel. And Martin Brundle pointed out, look, Adrian Newey is the best designer in the thing, and of course, the better your design team, the less presumably the less wind tunnel time you need. Now there is something to that. Let me get through the whole thing.
Yeah.
There is something to that because of course it's going to help the more you have. Otherwise they wouldn't be restricting it anyway. And it's been a big thing that large teams can have endless amounts of wind tunnel time. But of course, what makes the difference is the correlation between track and wind tunnel, right? And CAD design. So your wind tunnel is your kind of measure between how the track car is going to produce versus your CAD designs or your computer generated models, which you've got unlimited time in. So I just want to point this out. Adrian Newey is the expert there, right? He has made mistakes clearly over the years between what he thinks is going to happen and what actually happens. And they've had to go back and mesh their actual test data results with the CAD design. Okay, but generally speaking, he's much better at that than all of the other designers on the grid anyway.
No,
Aerodynamics being his speciality.
that is true, but I think that Martin Brando oversimplified the thing a little bit too much for a couple of reasons.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
the first one is that it's not that the wind tunnel hours are used to design the car; they're also used for development.
But upgrades,
And
yeah.
so you take that away, and you're gonna suffer. You're either gonna suffer massively in designing the car or in developing the car. That is the first thing.
Sure.
The second thing is that one of the things they use the wind tunnel for is to adapt the models that they use for the simulator with the data from the track and the data from the wind tunnel. If you
Yes.
take away one of those one of those points, you end up with you're gonna suffer in the other ones. So you might end up
Agreed.
with a simulator which is less precise. So I think that all in all, if you want to to punish somebody, taking away 25% of the hour, which is a massive amount.
It is massive.
It is super massive. But I mean, taking away that one, that is gonna hurt, development and design
Absolutely,
of the
Fabio.
car.
Absolutely, absolutely. It would hurt them if that's what happened. Notice again now. I just want to say this other thing, which is the second point I was going to make was, look, Red Bull have not said that they've broken the rules, and in order to get the FIA to actually give them the penalty, they're going to have to go through court. If the FIA, if Red Bull keep denying it, if Red Bull keep denying it.
Yeah.
Right, and that is obviously going to drag out into next year, which means the penalty can't be applied next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying that gives them 3 years of taking a benefit from an overspend. Go ahead.
No, sorry, it's funny you said that, because that is the other problem with our currently F1 is set up, and this is the reason why I think, and I'm super positive that whatever the FIA is gonna they're gonna agree on with Red Bull will sign it, and the main reason is that if Red Bull doesn't agree with that, the procedure this year is that they got to go through something which is called adjudication panel. Now, do you know who is in the adjudication panel?
I do not know that, Fabio. Who
Okay.
is in the adjudication panel?
I will tell you who is in the adjudication panel. It's 5 of the competitive teams. So if Red Bull decides to say, no, I'm not going to accept it, I got to go to the adjudication panel, it's fucking automatic that they will get every bucket of shit that is thrown at them. So any agreement that they manage to get with the FIA is going to be way better than anything that the adjudication panel is going to throw at them. Because they're going to, I don't know exactly who they are, but there are 5 teams. And you pick any team right now.
Teams, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe not Aston Martin. If they're lucky and Aston Martin is there, it's going to be a split decision, 4-1. But you take anybody, they're fucked. So,
That's a good point. Okay, so that was. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so that's another good point. Another thing we just briefly talked about. I want to try and get through this as quick as possible. By the way, Lucky, please jump in if you've got anything you want to add.
Sure.
Was to say that how many of the team members in Red Bull, expensive team members, do you think are being excluded? And do you think this rumor that went around last week has any truth in it?
What I know.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Well,
Lucky,
what I'm seeing at the moment, just very briefly, is YouTube is awash at the moment with ex Red Bull employees who were made redundant because of the cost cap this last year, I think it was, and they're all spilling the beans about what's this and that and the next thing. So Red Bull better be careful what they're doing, because
100%.
These days it's so easy to make a video, flap it on YouTube, or get a hold of somebody who's got one of the more popular F1 channels get in touch with them, spill the beans. And these guys will put it online for the views. They'll do it. So Red Bull's going to need to be really careful what happens.
Absolutely.
And if they're going to, as Fabio has said, if they're going to give this offer that they've been given a miss, and it's going to end up, as you said, in court, it's a mess. It's just a mess, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's delaying, though, the results. That's the point.
Yeah.
And if they've overspent again this year because of the same reason. I mean, if they've overspent again, and this year it's not because of the catering, then they're in serious trouble, okay? That's all I'm saying. Yes, that's right, because of the catering. Red Bull said one of the reasons they overspent is because they spent too much money on catering.
Yeah,
Okay,
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah. And the other one was because of they paid somebody on gardening leave, right, to do gardening leave. Well, does that come out of the budget or not? Don't know, of course. If they're a major employee, I can understand that's the case. And then secondly, okay. And I'm just saying there are other things. Obviously, what we're saying here as well is that Adrian Newey is not part of the budget cap. That was the rumor that was going around, Fabio, right?
Yeah, so the rumor was that so really quick, the rules say that you got to take away the three most paid people in the team right now. They're outside the budget cap. The three top, and that is not including the drivers. So, like for example, in the example of Ferrari, there would be Binotto, maybe that French idiot, and some other guy. Okay. In the example of Red Bull, it would be super easy. That would be Marco, Newey, and Horner. Those are the three top paid people. They're outside the budget cap. Everybody else. Now there is a funny thing with Red Bull, and there are two rumors. One that has been picked up by many, one which hasn't, and I still don't know if it's true or not. But apparently, what happened in Red Bull is that Helmut Marko doesn't belong to the Red Bull team. He's a consultant. So by him being a consultant, is not into the team or the budget cap. So is off by default. Okay. So Helmut Marko, you should not count. Apparently, somebody which works for free for Red Bull. Okay. The other thing which is super interesting is that apparently the same thing is happening with Adrian Newey. There is a rumor which says that Adrian Newey is actually is not somebody working for Red Bull Racing, but he works for another company which I can't remember from the top of my head, but it's basically part of Red Bull, so he's hired as a consultant too. And his salary is paid by that other company. Now, if those things are true, in Red Bull, there would be Marco and Newey, which are outside the budget cap. So the three top paid people would be Horner and two aerodynamicists which work for Red Bull. And Newey and Marco are not even on in the scenery. They're not even there.
Yeah.
That would be, if that's true, that would be really another massive thing, because I don't think that, I don't know how much money Adrian Newey gets, I don't know how much money Helmut Marko gets, but I'm suspecting they get a good chunk of money.
Oh yeah. I would say they're probably one of the higher, more highly paid than the drivers.
Here's a question.
Let's say for example that they get paid, I don't know, like 10 million euros, each. Right?
Come on, 30 million, right?
Let's say 10 million euros each. Okay, by that thing, you got to see how much money they paid those two aerodynamicists, and that's the amount of money that they're getting more in the budget cap.
Yeah, I would just say I don't think. I mean, they're clearly Adrian Newey and Helmut Marko are not getting paid as much as Gordon Ramsay is, because that's the only way I can see the fucking budget cap going over for catering.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lucky. Sorry.
My question is this: if Adrian Newey is excluded from the financial spendings of Red Bull.
The budget cap.
What's to stop Adrian Newey, as an independent person, hiring a wind tunnel for 500 hours this next season and putting the car that he designed in it and paying for it?
But this is an interesting point, and that's one the other reason why I said everything is so. I mean, this mechanism is complicated, and it needs time to be evaluated, and that's why they're taking so much time. I'm not blaming FIA; it's really complicated. I'm gonna make it really simpler for you. You know, let's say that Eddie Newey next year is gonna work X amount of hours for the boat, for the Oracle boat, right? Nobody's going to check when Andy Newey, just signs, the slip of paper. Nobody's going to check if he's working X amount of hours on the boat or on the car.
Yeah.
So there is a certain amount of leeway, and there is a certain amount of things which are left to the good faith of the teams. That is in the rules. You cannot make without, and they all know it about it. Everybody knows about it. Yeah. That is why, in my opinion, if it turns out that they, regardless of how it's designed, regardless of how it's made, regardless of all the limitations, if they still found out 1.8 millions more, that is a big thing. That is a super big thing.
Yeah, I mean, what I said to you, like, considering as well, remembering back to 2021, the last upgrade that Mercedes put on their car, the last serious upgrade, of course, was Silverstone. There was one other small one after that. However, Red Bull brought 4 or 5 upgrades after Silverstone.
Yes.
Now, that, and they've overspent, right?
Right.
So if they knew they'd overspent, they shouldn't have brought those upgrades. End of story, as far as I can see. I think they have seriously got away with one again, like they did with the ride heights, like they did with the flexi wings, all right, when they were both allowed to use those things for at least half a season before getting actually other teams going, well, we're going to develop it as well, then we're going to stick it on our car. And this is the way it gets done, all right, in Formula One. So I would expect, given the history of Formula One and other teams saying, okay, you're not going to, if the FIA are not going to stop people cheating like this straight away and get down on it hard, quickly, which they clearly haven't done, then we're just going to do it as well. And of course, this is what Toto Wolff threatened. He just said, look, if we're only going to get fined, right? Well, we don't care about money because we were spending 350 million. So if you want to fine us 40 million for an overspend of 10 million, that's fine. We don't care. We'll spend the 10 million. And I have a feeling that in 2023, if the FIA cannot get Red Bull to sign this agreement, and they actually do some serious damage to them well, they can't. They cannot do any serious damage to Red Bull now for 2023, right? Because even as you said, Lucky, even if they take away 500 hours, who's to say Adrian Newey's not going to say, oh, well, no, I've hired a wind tunnel so I can test the boat.
Yeah, but that is going to be way more difficult.
It's going to be tricky.
I mean, you have ways to check it, because all the teams they got to tell which facilities they're going to use, so it's easier to check. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
I mean, you go to the wind tunnel the Red Bull is going to use, and they say, okay, give me everything that they used it for. So that is going to be easier, and that's why I think that is a proper way of dealing with the problem. Money, it's I mean, you get to that point, it's monopoly money. It doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
But
I'm just pointing
500 hours in the wind tunnel, those they fucking exist. They do exist.
Yeah. No, granted. But all I'm saying is that if it's not stepped on, right, and dealt with in the correct way by the end of the season, then of course you're basically looking at other teams doing the same thing that happened during the brake scandal with Ferrari, during the flexi wing scandal with Red Bull, etc. And of course, all this means is other teams will also do the same thing. They will start saying, "Oh well, look, we're going to spend, look, you know, we're going to spend the money in catering. We're going to spend the money on gardening leave. We're going to spend the money. We're going to buy. We're going to get someone, employ someone, put him on gardening leave, right, and then take his wage out and have him work for us anyway. Who's to say that's not going to happen, right? Just to
The-
say, and
I,
also
I,
just last thing. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I just want to say that I don't think it's by chance that Zach Brown was one of the most angry people about that. I mean, those guys, they were fined 100 millions, and they're still probably paying that. So yeah,
Yeah. Also, I'm really looking forward. New thing coming out for Christmas. I've ordered the Red Bull frying pan kit, designed by Adrian Newey.
yeah,
So there's that as well to look forward to. Lucky, I want to finish the show up there. I think we've dealt with it. It's really important that the FIA does actually do something about this in order to control the situation and make these rules at least somewhat respectable. Lucky, is there anything you wanted to say to
Well,
that or anything
I'll,
else?
I'll, I'm going to leave the frying pan set because I obviously this is a private kind of joke that I don't know about. However, if Fabio suggested that one of the penalties for Red Bull might be £20 million fine. Basically, if that's the case, everybody is going to say Verstappen's championship and their constructors' championship in 2021 cost them 20 million quid, and that's it.
Yeah, technically they didn't win the constructors. It was only the drivers' championship they won in 21.
Was it?
But yeah, but this year as
Okay.
well, because the car's
well,
been brought over from last year. So any development they did last year at the end, obviously, gave them an advantage at the beginning of this year.
yeah. But that's why I said, money is not important. What
Yeah.
really is going to hurt them is the wind tunnel. That is going to be massive.
as you said, Sam, I mean, this 20 million is a drop in the bucket for the big teams, and if Mercedes had thought, right, we'll overspend £2 million pounds or dollars, whatever, and get fined 20 million for doing that, but still win a championship, what would they do? They'd go for the 20 million.
Of course.
Well-
bet that they would.
Well, I mean, again, it remains to be seen if those 20 millions are taken over from the. I mean, because if they're taken off the budget cap, that again is going to be something massive because 20 millions is more than 10%.
Yeah,
but they
So-
can't take it. They can't take it from the budget cap. They
But
just
regard-
cannot do that.
Yeah, but regardless, the
wouldn't be a fine
money,
then, would it?
the guys, the money doesn't matter. What
Yeah, it's
matter
the hours,
is the hours.
100%. 100%.
What-
I mean,
one
I
of
would
the-
like to see them deducted points as well, just as a course of setting a precedent. And they can deduct points from Verstappen, and he can still win the championship. This is my estimation of what is going to end up happening, and I think what the FIA should do is they should deduct 5 points from Verstappen on the championship, and they should deduct 10 points from the constructors. Just to say,
One last
look,
question
we
for-
are going to deduct points if you overspend.
Yeah,
One-
but I mean, we talked about it. The points is tricky because of the timing that it happens. When I mean, if you deduct points right now, you deduct it from the last season, and the teams have been given money according to how they ended last season. So that, I mean, it's gonna be tricky.
Sure,
It's not impossible, but
I agree.
it's,
I agree, but if they deduct a certain number of points, it's not going to make a difference to those tallies. That's what I'm saying, and I don't think they should do it because it's going to have an effect on anything other than the future. To say, look, here you go, guys. Right, there is going to be a consequence in points if you do overspend. Right, this is not going to be something like next year you can overspend and you can sign this agreement and not get any points deducted.
I agree with you. I mean, I think there's still the fact that the FIA doesn't want to touch what has already been written. So
Agreed.
that
I know
is,
it
but
doesn't
yeah,
look
no,
good.
I understand your point, but
I think for president's sake they should. Anyway, there you go. Lucky, is there anything else you'd like to say about Anything?
One last question. Fabio will be able to shed some light on this. Why are Ferrari so quiet about this business? Because normally, if something's going on, Ferrari are right in the thick of it. But for some reason, Ferrari are staying very quiet about this.
Because right now Ferrari doesn't have any interest in steering the pot, and I think that's a very smart move. There is nothing that Ferrari or Toto Wolff or Zach Brown can say right now which is going to modify the thing. By not saying anything, you actually put yourself in a stronger position than by saying something.
Yeah.
So you just stay there, you wait, you see what the fuck happens. You tell, yeah, we got our own things to deal with it, and see what the fuck happens, and we will act accordingly. So the basically playing the bigger guy. They don't want to start a fight with the FIA, and I think that's really smart. I mean, you don't start a fight.
Yeah. I'd agree with you there. That's probably very true. But normally Ferrari are the first to get themselves in the mix with things, and I just thought that they'd be very quiet.
I mean, I'm not sure about that though. I'm not really sure about that. They've usually not been that much involved in those kind of things, regarding rule, unless they touch them. But yeah. And also, I mean, keep in mind that Ferrari still got that secret thing that they had to sign with the FIA, and they still got their. I'm sure it's somewhere in a drawer, that if the shit is in the fan, they can always say, okay, look what they punish us for, right?
Also, I think that there's a suspicion here that basically if a deal is done with the FIA, it might be behind closed doors, just the same way that Ferrari did the deal.
Yeah.
And I think Ferrari stirring the pot would give the FIA more motivation to actually sign a deal behind closed doors and say, well, we're not going to tell you what the penalty is, which would mean that they don't have this restriction on points or thing, or tunnel time, but do have it on.
What are the Italian
reducing...
press saying about this? Because they're usually quite vocal in these sort of matters.
Good point.
No, they're just saying that they're waiting for what the FIA is going to sign with Red Bull.
Right.
That's the gist of it. There's been everybody has condemned how things have been going in social media and all that shit. I mean, this is part of the I understand it's part of the narrative right now, but I mean they're just waiting to see what the fuck happens. That's pretty much it.
Fair enough.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lucky. That's really valuable input, as always. And we look forward to seeing you in the next race, which I think is Mexico.
Yeah, it's Mexico. Next week.
It is. Okay, next week. Yeah. So we got 1 week to go, guys.
Yeah.
This will be closing in on the end of the season, thank God. Just to say, Mexico. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But before the race even starts, Haas and Alpine are going to be visiting the stewards over flapping bodywork parts or missing bodywork parts relating to Alonso's mirror and some other things that have been going on. I think
Perez, Red Bull, yeah.
Yeah, the wing end plate came off of his car, and there was a penalty that was given to Magnussen at some point in the year for having a body part loose.
Yeah.
But his penalty was so much more than Alonso was given for his broken mirror in America. Yeah. So the two teams are being summoned to the stewards for talks.
Well, listen, I mean, losing a rear view mirror is fucking dangerous, man. So I'm all with the fact that they had to punish the guy. It's the team responsibility to put the car back in a safe condition, and losing a rear view mirror can actually kill somebody,
Well,
like
yeah,
proper kill somebody.
if we remember Hampton Massa, when he got hit in the head with the piece, what was it, of a McLaren? I can't remember.
No, it was
It was a Honda or a Braun.
it was a Brawn. Yeah,
Brawn.
it was a Brawn. Rear spring damper, I think it was.
Yeah, a spring of some description.
Anyway,
Anyway,
go ahead. Anything you
I
want to
mean,
finish up with, Fabio?
yeah, two very quick things. First of all, I'm really glad that the apparently TV direction is going in the good direction. At least when they're not showing us the public when there is an overtake, which is good. Even the thing with
Takes
the drone.
me back. Yeah, nostalgia.
Yeah,
I had nostalgia when I missed a
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
of
No, I mean, they're getting there. They're getting there. So I'm happy for that. And also, there is the other thing that apparently the FIA either listened to us or to listen to everybody else. I don't know. But they apparently fired the race director, and now they're going back to having one race director for all the races. It's fucking unbelievable. But yeah, that happened. It managed to get in the thick skull that was a very bad idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, it only took one season and more than 20 races to get there. But yeah, eventually we get there. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That's great. Lucky, did you just add something in on that? No,
Well,
you're okay.
overtaking. I seem to recall that used to happen at some point, didn't it?
It did, yeah, back in
racing.
long time ago.
Yeah.
2014 or something was the real year, wasn't it? But anyway, there you go. That's when they really tried to make a difference to overtaking. Made the cars look a bit funny, but hey, it worked. It worked. Okay, I just want to say one last thing about Mexico. It's not specifically about Mexico actually. I've recently received the. And you'll like this, Fabio. I've recently received the 2022 Michelin guide to 5-star eating, and I noticed there's been a new edition. Can you guess where that may be? Can you guess which restaurant might be included in the Michelin guide?
I think I might be wrong, but I think it's the Red Bull restaurant in the
in the pits, in the paddock.
Yes.
It is in fact the Red Bull restaurant is going to be in the Michelin guide. Okay, look, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show today. It's been a while. It's been a long one. It's been a good one though. And I've got to just click that first, and there it is. And so we will see everybody a lot later. Thank you, Lucky. Go ahead.
Cheers.
Is there a cost cap in the menu at the Red Bull?
No.
Yeah, eat it out on a budget. No, there's no budget limitation. That would be
it's all you can eat.
All right.
It's all you can take home. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see everybody.
Top 3 dishes which are not included.
top 3 dishes not included in the price. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. See you all later.
See you guys.
No, dobbiamo andare per Gianni.
Ah, vabbè, se piove ti chiamo, vuol dire te.